we've already talked about a lot of different subjects this morning. We've talked about space medicines, asteroids. This afternoon, more about how can we attract talents to the space sector and what kind of talents do we need for this panel. Now we will welcome those that actually went up to space with 4 astronauts to tell their stories of human spaceflight. I'm very happy to welcome on stage, firstly, Prunariu, the first Romanian in space, and now a key element in the Asteroid Foundation. We have as well Claude Nicollier, Swiss astronaut who serviced the Hubble Space Telescope. We have Fuglesang that I've seen here, yes, as well veteran as an astronaut in 2 space shuttle missions. And finally, Paolo Nespoli, 3-time space flyer. Please join me on stage. Don't hesitate to take a seat so we can discuss more around your space stories. All right. Yeah, please sit down. Don't hesitate. Oh.
Shall I sit here?
Yeah, please do. Thank you very much for joining us for this very specific event. So you have the mics on the side. Don't hesitate to use them. Maybe we could first do a round of introduction where you could explain to us what type of vehicle did you use to go to space, and tell us a bit more about your missions, because you're not exactly all of the same generations. And I think my first question would be, do you remember the first time you saw planet Earth during your first mission?
Well, first, maybe
You have the mic.
Can you hear me?
No, this one maybe?
How about now? Okay. I was selected in the first group of ESA astronauts in 1978, so quite a while ago, in a galaxy far away. I mean, it's really very far away in the past. And I always had a passion for astrophysics, for nature, for science in general, and for aviation. And when Apollo 11 took place, which was, of course, very inspiring, I was 25 years of age, but the astronauts, they were from Soviet Union, cosmonauts, and from the United States. There was no room for Europeans. But it came a little later, around in the mid-70s, after the end of the Apollo program. Apollo 17 was 1972. Then it became possible for Europeans. And the first selection of ESA astronauts started in 1977, and then end of selection 1978. And Ulf Merbold, Wubbo Ockels, and myself were selected very happily, and for me it was the beginning of a new life and a wonderful life. It's been extraordinary. Was relocated to Houston together with Wubbo Ockels in 1980, trained on the space shuttle for many years, had my first flight in 92, and then bang, 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 3 more flights on the shuttle in the 90s, and 2 visits to Hubble, which were extraordinary. So it's been a very privileged and extraordinary life.
So the year you saw planet Earth from space was 1992.
Now, of course, I didn't answer your question. I was giving an introduction.
No, that's perfect.
In a way,
setting the stage.
Shuttle missions were very short and they were extremely busy. And of course, we go around the Earth in an hour and a half. So the orbital day is an hour and a half with a 1-hour day with the sun above the horizon, then half an hour night when we are in the shadow of the Earth. And they were typically 10, 11, 12 days, the shuttle mission. They were very busy. And the time to look at the Earth were really limited. Typically, we had, out of this 24-hour day in the flight plan, where we were going 16 times around the Earth, we had about 12 or 13-hour working time. And if you had a spacewalk on a Hubble, spacewalks typically 6, 7, 8 hours, and preparation and then post-EVA activity. It was busy, 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 busy. And then at the end of the day, we had about an hour to an hour and a half free time, so look at the Earth, and it was, of course, extraordinary. But in the total time that we had, it was a relatively short time looking at the Earth. Of course, on the International Space Station, and Paolo, who went twice over there for a 6-month mission, more or less, can say more about this. But there's much more looking at the Earth from the cupola, which is a room full of windows to look at the Earth and at the horizon. On the shuttle mission, it was relatively limited. But it was, in a way, it was short free time to look at the Earth and upwards also at the stars. But it was maybe even, I would say, more intense because it was such a short time. Extraordinary. The view of the Earth from space are unbelievable. And for me, the characteristics of the Earth from space is beauty, an incredible beauty, fragility, small size, and isolation. I can summarize this way.
Thank you, Claude. And Paolo, so you, actually Claude gave the floor to you already, so you have the mic just right next to you, if you want. Oh, no, I mean, we can go in the order as you prefer, but I was curious because you flew with the space shuttle to the International Space Station, if I'm correct. And so did you see a difference from what Claude said?
So, okay, what is your question now? No, I understand this, but
about
you want me to
the
introduce
first time you
myself
saw
and
planet
all?
Earth, the first time you saw planet Earth on your first mission.
Okay, your question is what? By the way, Houston, that loudspeaker works, but not this one. So I can barely hear the boo 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 on the other side. So I don't know if you can fix this. So
You don't hear me well, or? Okay. My question was, can you tell us more about your first mission and the first time you saw planet Earth? And Claude was telling us about the fact that he flew only on the space shuttle, but you actually went to the International Space Station, and it is apparently a different experience.
yes, but I was like, all right, well, Galactic, Chloé, I have a little bit of difficulty. You're asking me what was my view when I saw the Earth from
What
the
did
first
you
time
feel?
from the shuttle, but then on the space station, so I'm confused here.
Well, just tell us about your first mission and how
Okay,
it was
so
for you.
I concur with Claude that shuttle, okay, I had the fortune and the opportunity to fly the first flight on the space shuttle, and I concur with Claude that a space shuttle is a very concentrated mission where, you know, the planning is almost by the minute, and all the crew has to do all these activities. There's a rush, and barely, when you have a little bit of time, probably you fall asleep more than, you know, enjoying the view, which you can view from relatively small window. Now, the space station is a different environment where, you know, you're there working for a long time, long period. You know, usually, normally it's about 6 or 8 months at a time. You get a very dense activity planned not by the minute, by the 15 minutes. So, but it's still a longer 12 hours day doing what Houston asks you to do. But then something interesting happened is that they give you 12 hours to rest a little bit because they know very well if they make you work and work and work and work, yeah, probably you can last 15 days, but then after 15 days, you're gonna be like with your tongue outside and you start making mistakes, you start kind of hating this thing and you get stressed. So they want you to rest. And that is very interesting because I found myself after 3 weeks I was in space that, okay, I can rest. But is it okay for me to spend 12 hours doing, quote unquote, nothing? Because rest for me is not that I don't have anything to do. It's that I do what I want. And the question is, can I do what I want on the space station? Can I go for a walk? Can I go for a pizza with a friend? Can I, you know, take my kids and play with them? Cannot do anything like this. And one of the nicest things that I found is that, as Claude mentioned, to go to this enormous window that there is on the space station, and there you can look at the Earth in an interesting way, not in a small window, but in a big, huge thing where you can actually see a lot of things. And Earth is really an incredible view, seeing from there. You can see a lot, and something strange, quote unquote, happened because, you know, you're flying around Earth at 28,000 kilometers per hour, which means 8 kilometers per second, which means that in an hour and a half you have spun around the whole world, which means if you have time, you can see all the oceans, all the continents. You can see South America, South Africa, Europe, Japan, Russia. I mean, it's an incredible thing. And what's more incredible is that, you know, it's like 11 o'clock at night, and usually we think that 11 o'clock at night is a good time to do what? Watch TV, sit at the couch, drink something. But there you get an incredible view, and on top of that, normally 11 o'clock is dark on Earth, and if you wait an hour, it's dark, and if you wait 2 hours, it's dark again. But there, if you go to the cupola and it's dark, you wait 10 minutes and it gets sunny. If it is white, because under is winter, you wait 10 minutes and you get spring, and you get autumn, you get summer. So it's incredible changes of things which are not normal, and you get to flavor this thing, which is an incredible view. So I spent almost every day, every evening, not working 12 hours, an hour and a half of those not working 12 hours to look at planet Earth in a day and a night space station sequence, which is really incredible. Makes you see things in a different way that you see from Earth.
Thank you, Paolo. So how about you, Dorin? Do you remember your mission? Yeah.
Yes, it's working. Actually, I think I'm not the oldest one here, but I'm between them. My space flight was 44 years ago, in 1981. I flew the last spaceship of the first generation of Soyuz. It was Soyuz 40, not Soyuz T, not Soyuz TM, not Soyuz TMA, just Soyuz 40. And believe me that at that time, we didn't have any digital device on board the Soyuz. Everything was electromechanical. On board that spacecraft, we had 16 automatic programs. Just in case something happened, we could push 2 buttons, and it started to orient the spacecraft, to turn on the engine if necessary, to bring us down to the Earth if necessary. But everything was like that. Click, 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 pock, click, 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 pock, and that's all. But all these things did their job and did very well. What I've seen when I was up there, the first thing when you look at the Earth, it's seeing different things, continents, colors, the very thin atmosphere. But it's very important that when you are up there, you feel the Earth emotionally. And you don't just look at the Earth, but you feel what happened. You feel what happened with you. Just the image of the Earth seen from up there gives you a different feeling than if you see a picture or a movie about spaceflight and so on. And this is what I wish to feel yourself somehow. But if you don't fly into space, you don't have to have the same feeling as we have. Actually, the life on board the Salyut 6, we docked with the space station Salyut 6. When you look now at the International Space Station, and it has a lot of modules, 8 if I'm not mistaken. So our Salyut 6 was just one teeny module of the actual space station, ISS. Inside we were 4 people. 2 came to the space station, 2 working there from almost 2 months, joined together, accomplished a lot of scientific experiments for 1 week together, and then come back to the Earth separately, 2 and 2. And when you meet somebody up there, you are not anymore a Romanian, a Russian, an American, or somebody else. You are a citizen of the Earth. And you are a friend of anybody being up there. Because the humans meeting outside the Earth, they feel differently the relationships between us. So that was the main characteristics of what I felt during my space flight. And looking at Earth, it's very, very interesting. So we didn't have cupola at that time. We had some windows this size. They were 17 around the space station. And any time during the evening, mainly at about 6, 7, 8 o'clock in the evening, we had some free time. And my preferred job was just to jump in front of the window, look what happened live, understanding that everything you see there, so thunderstorms or airplanes coming to the airport, you see tiny lines of the trace of the airplane. You see very tiny ships on the sea, on the ocean also. And you see also the big cities. But everything is happening exactly in that time. And the feeling is different than when you look at a picture or something taken before.
Thank you very much.
Okay, welcome.
And how about you, Krista? You're a Swedish astronaut. So we've had Salute, we have ISS, Space Shuttle. How about you? What was your mission? No, it's always green. You just need to put it on.
No, I think it's okay. Well, I don't know if it's much to add, actually. But yes, I did two missions with the Space Shuttle in 2006 and 2009. They both went to the International Space Station during the time when we were building the space station. And I was very fortunate because I got to do a lot of space walks during these missions. I cannot remember when I saw Earth from space first time. I mean, you get up there with shuttle, very intense, only 8.5 minutes, and then there's a lot of work to do, to be done. And so I don't remember, but I certainly remember many times when you have a few minutes left over, as Paolo explained, I mean, you float to window and just enjoy the views. It's also interesting to see if you can localize things. I mean, people often ask, can you see the Chinese wall? Well, not with your bare eyes. And I actually also did some mathematical calculations that if you know how accurate a normal eye is, then you can figure out, no, you cannot see it. Unless maybe the sun is very low and you get a long shade. But once I thought, I look at the map, oh, we're coming up here over Cairo soon. I wonder if I can see the pyramids. Well, I wasn't even able to localize Cairo. Wasn't. I was daytime. But otherwise, to me, one of the most fascinating times, that was night times. When you're floating over inhabited areas nighttime, particularly if there were areas which you were well known, you know well, it was like floating over a huge map. And big light bulbs, big cities, and small light bulbs, small cities. And often cities are along the coast, so you get the coastlines lined out. Absolutely amazing. And then you understand there's a civilization down on this planet. Other really strong memories I have, that is from the spacewalks when I was particularly... I mean, the spacewalks are 6-7 hours, and you don't work intensely all that time. You often have to wait for someone else to do something, either your partner or the ground control. So there are times when you can just enjoy being there and you see the Earth. And I was a couple times on the top of the space station and see this whole beautiful, big, 100-meter kind of modern sail ship in space. And 350, 360 kilometers below that, the Earth was floating by. And a couple of times I also saw an aurora on the horizon. That was maybe one of the more powerful memories I have.
Thank you very much for sharing with us, and kind of sets the stage at what are your different experiences in space. Now, I actually want to ask the audience, if you want to take out your smartphones and scan the QR code, you can ask a few questions, and the most voted question we will answer during the panel. But while the public does that, I have a follow-up question. So, you know, when we see and hear astronaut, we kind of have this myth of course, a very serious and busy job, but in the end, it's also a human experience. So do you have an anecdote maybe that you would like to share, that something happened during one of your missions that felt kind of deeply human in some way, that could have happened with a team of friends? Does something come to mind?
Well, you know, I think in the astronaut corps is a little bit, in my opinion, like the military. You are very strict, you're doing your task, your job, but then there is a lot of kidding around, a lot of jokes, a lot of, you know, figuring out who's the guy that believes all the things that you tell them. And so it turns out that we were in space during one of these increments on the 1st of April. And in the previous year, 1st of April, the crew did something bad to mission control. So they faked a heart attack just when the video and the audio was disconnected from the station for 45 minutes. So the guys in Houston were like, heart attack, video goes away, they cannot talk anymore. And of course it was a joke. They did not take it too well. No. So they say that they were a little bit upset at NASA because of this. But then, yeah. So we decided, well, you know, we cannot let it go just like this. We need to come up with something. And we were trying to figure out something that is, but not so. So we decided that they had sent up on the station a big box that contained the Robonaut. Robonaut is a kind of a robot from this part up. Looks like a human with hands, head, and everything. But it was inside this box. We were supposed to, you know, open up the box when Houston would tell you, and but there were no time. There were never time. So we would pass by. There was this box, and we were simply saying, "Okay, when are we going to take out the Robonaut?" But Houston said, "Oh, there is no time on the crew. You need to do something else." So one weekend when one of those periods where there was no connection with the ground, we took out the screwdriver, unbuckled the old tank, we took out the Robonaut and closed it again. So when it was the time, on the 1st of April, we kind of provoked it to take out the Robonaut. We just set up all the cameras, set up everything. Then we started a lot of bolts, you know, all over the place. It took like 20 minutes of removing all the bolts, and then suddenly we opened up the thing and there was nothing inside. And so we played that, you know, we were kind of like, there's no Robonaut. What happened? And so we took the camera and flew it around the station, and sure enough, the Robonaut was in the Japanese laboratory operating, simulating to operate the Japanese robotic arm. Those are some of the things that happened, and this time they took it nicely. So it was good.
Better joke, right? All right. Okay, so is this the question everybody voted the most? That tells a lot about the audience we have here. So apparently the question the audience has decided that you absolutely need to answer. If there was just one question, the question is, how did you poop in space? And I have to say, we don't have so many children in the room.
Well, I can say it's the most common question asked, so I'm not surprised.
So do you want to go
let me explain how a space toilet works, because they're a little bit different on the shuttle and the space station and like that. But I mean, basically, it's a vacuum cleaner. And it's very easy if you do number one, which Americans call it, the small job, the Russians call it. You just take a hose and you put a funnel on it. Women and men have identical shaped funnels. And then you do your work. Actually, when you lift the hose, the fan starts automatic. On the shuttle, it does not do that on the station. I can tell you that's a kind of a big risk for danger, because after I've used the shuttle toilet for 10 days, and then I decided once, because it was more convenient, to use the station toilet. And then on the really started to get critical, I realized the fan is not on. I managed to turn it on in time. It's tougher if you want to do number two, a big job. The principle is the same. First of all, you position yourself and you secure yourself. You don't want to float away there and wait while you're doing your job. And then it's on the shuttle again. It's a little locker which you have to open with a hatch, and you only forget to do that once, I tell you that. And then there's a fan there which you also have to get started, and that fan is not always strong enough to suck things down, so that kind of complicates things a bit also. But at least on the shuttle, everything gets just automatic in a big tank, or you don't have to do more. That's more tough than on the station because you have to take care of that kind of tech things later. So I can tell you that part was not my favorite part of space, but most of the other.
Dorin, Claude, anything to add, or was this a good explanation? Okay, hear you.
About this particular subject, no, there's nothing to add. Thank you, Krista. But I have to leave pretty soon. But I want to tell you something because we talked about Earth observation, the view of Earth from space. For me, as a former astronomer who loved space, the sky, the night sky, I can tell you that the view of the night sky from space is absolutely breathtaking. There's a lot of focus about Earth observation, but what is above the horizon was really absolutely spectacular. One thing is, during the orbital day, it's 1 hour per orbit, where the sun is above the horizon. The sky is completely black. And a blackness that is never to be seen here on Earth. I remember that was my first impression going up on my first flight in 92. We have main engine cut off, and then we are floating in the cabin, and the pencils and the notebooks are floating. And I was looking out, and we had an orientation such that we were viewing through the overhead windows the sky, and it was so black. And that blackness I've never seen here on Earth. I had the feeling I'm looking at the Big Bang after 13.7 billion years of cooling down of the universe, which is not true because the blackness of space is because of the physiological limitation. But that's the sky during the day, completely black. Then the sun sets in about 20 seconds. And then, little by little, after a few minutes, you get dark adapted, and the sky is breathtaking. You have to imagine the stars are moving 16 times faster than they are moving here when seen from Earth, because there are 16 times an hour and a half, which is a period of revolution around the Earth on low Earth orbits in 24 hours. And you see the constellation moving rapidly in the sky. And above the Earth horizon, you have a region of luminescence, the air glow, about 100 kilometers above the Earth's surface. So when you see a star rising, it rises at the horizon. Then you go through the air glow where it dims a little bit because there's more absorption, and then they rise fast over the horizon. And I remember the rise of the constellation Orion, which is a beautiful constellation. I could see Orion rising this way. And the background of the sky is completely black during the night, unlike here on Earth, where even from a mountain site in good weather, there's always a little bit of a milky appearance of the background of the sky because of the air glow. But when we're above the air glow, which is the case, air glow is 100 kilometers, and we are typically 300, 400, 500, 600 kilometers, which was the case for Hubble. The background of the sky is completely black, so anything that is low light level and diffuse, like the Milky Way, comes out in an incredible manner. I had the feeling of seeing nearly the third dimension of the Milky Way, seeing inside the plane of the galaxy with the third dimension. Unbelievable. And for me, the views of the sky have been as impressive as a view from the Earth, which we described before.
Thank you so much.
I recommend it very highly.
Oh.
If you go into space, look at the Earth, yes, but look at the sky also during the orbital night. It's unbelievable.
Thank you so much. Good. I want to leave the last words to Dorin because I know you have to go, so we need to be right on time.
I still have a few minutes.
Yeah, so if you, maybe you add something to add on the poop process, or if something else. It's
No, leave. My colleagues already pooped.
Okay.
So of course, all of us did it on board the space station. And okay, the process was explained more or less as the same thing with the Russian thing. So, but if you want a story from the outer space, I will tell you one, a very interesting one. So every evening I told you I was in front of the window looking outside and so on. One of the evenings, looking outside, I've seen a trace of a rocket launched from the ground and was up there somewhere into the outer space. It was a teeny line, white, on the blackness of the outer space. And I took the camera, I took some pictures, I called my colleagues. Look what happened outside. Okay, they had a look. Instantly, Kovalyonok was the commander of the space station. He was a tough military person. He was a colonel at that time. fighting against imperialism and so on. You understand, my space flight was during the Cold War. And always, even if I was neutral in a way, because Romania had very good relations with the United States, with Western Europe at that time, the Russians were very tough against the Americans. And Kovalyov said, oh, okay, sure, for sure, it's a rocket launched by the Americans against us. Let's take pictures. And he took a big camera. I didn't know that it existed on board the space station with wide film inside and very fast. I said, wait, guys, what it is? Shut up, it's secret. Okay, it's secret. And then we start to analyze. At the second tour around the Earth, we observed the same phenomena, a little bit on the side, and fragmented. All this line was fragmented. And teeny rose colors, reddish colors, and so on. At the third tour, okay, I've seen it from far away, and it was fragmented in many places. And the guy said, okay, for sure, the Americans. And I said, okay, guys, I'm good at navigation. I observed this line on the horizon. The horizon, from our point, it's about 2,000 kilometers. Okay. Comparing with our direction, it was about 20 degrees on the left side. And I observed it above England. I took the map. I said, England, our direction, 51 degrees against the equator, 20 degrees, 2,000 kilometers, Murmansk. You know what it's in Murmansk. Nuclear submarines, Russian base, and so on. And the guys shut up instantly, never said anything about that phenomenon. I tried to ask them, okay, maybe we find out anything. Nothing. We informed the ground. Okay, the ground said, okay, we notice. That's all. Many years after, Vladimir Kovalyonok visited Romania, and we had a lecture in front of the students at the Polytechnica Institute of Bucharest. And he explained that during our space flight, I observed a phenomena, and take into account the registration, the film we took, and the fragmentation of this trace, we discovered a new theory about very high altitude winds. Okay, Vladimir and me. No, they discovered, okay. So at that time was not about the intellectual property, what to tell them. All the films were taken by the Russians, passed by different filters. I've never seen any more anything connected with that phenomenon. But that happened.
Thank you so much for all of your stories. Thank you. All right. So now there's going to be half an hour where you'll be here for the signing session, going to the main hall. So we can, if you want to have a signing or ask your questions directly, then we can go towards there. Okay, yeah, and we will meet you in half an hour for the next panel.